Avalon Waterways, as reviewed by perhaps their number one fan and real travel expert. Stay tuned. My guest today is Judy Nickerson, owner of Judy's Luxury Travel and Cruise Holidays of Monument, located in Colorado. Judy has been meeting the needs of her clients in and around Colorado and across the country for 15 plus years and is an Avalon Waterways real travel expert. Hi, Judy. Welcome back to RTE Travel Talk.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
It's great to have you with us again, Judy. So today, you're going to enlighten us about your most recent Avalon River cruise from Budapest to Prague, and also one
Right.
that you took late last year, I believe, on the Moselle.
Right. We did that actually last June.
Okay, cool. So first of all, I have to ask, is there anywhere in Europe that you haven't gone with Avalon Waterways yet?
No, I don't think so. And we have to repeat them. Repeat all the rivers we've been on.
Right on. So first off, let's start off with the Moselle River Cruise. Most of our viewers and listeners are familiar with the popular Rhine and Danube cruises. What do you see on these rivers that you wouldn't see on the other two more cruise choices, such as the Rhine and the Danube?
Well, first of all, you get to go into Paris,
Wow.
which you can on other cruises. But and we've been there half a dozen times or more and find something new to see every time.
Each and every time.
And this was no different because they have different tours set up for you. Avalon sets up those tours. So that's one thing. Another thing was the World War I Battle of Verdun. And I had never heard of it before we went there, but others that have more history knowledge than me have. And it was fascinating. Then the other thing we get to see is Trier.
Right.
Which is one of Europe's oldest cities. It goes back to 150 AD. So there's so many different things. Plus the wonderful wine that they serve
Right.
and grow. And the vineyards are on these steep hills as you sail down the river. And when we were there in June, it was green and beautiful. And that's why we like Europe so much. It's got so much history that we can learn.
Right. So how long was the itinerary?
So it was a 10-day trip. And so that meant 2 days or 2 nights and days in Paris.
Right.
And all cruises are 7 days unless you're doing it back to back or a 14-day trip.
Okay.
So 7 nights, So it was 10 days. So it was perfect timing. 10 days is great.
So you arrived in Paris first then, so you got a little time in Paris to get over some of the jet lag, see Paris, and then onto your river cruise.
That's correct. Avalon picks us up at the airport, which we love, and takes us to the hotel. And then you have some free time, and then you're able to join the tour the next day. And then you get to leave on a bus that takes you to Trier, where you board, or Remick, where you board the ship.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, and that's when you stop in Verdun.
Right.
And interesting things along the way. So
you mentioned they pick you up at your hotel.
Uh-huh.
I don't know whether I missed it. The air to get there, was that
Okay.
provided with Avalon, or did you book your own air?
We book our own air,
Right.
but Avalon can do it.
Right.
Oftentimes can get good deals.
Right.
So we book it and they pick us up. You can pay for transfers if you don't use their air.
Right.
You can pay extra and they'll pick you up. And that's our favorite thing.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so they will still provide the transfers for you at a cost if you book your own air.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as you stay within their trip boundaries. You're leaving on the same day and you disembark and so forth, or whatever the trip has laid out.
Right. Okay. So, Judy, when we look at this, the Rhine and the Moselle as opposed to the Danube, can you combine some time spent on the Rhine or the Moselle with time on the Rhine or the Danube, or are they connected that way?
You can. There's different options that Avalon offers. You can leave from Budapest and sail up the Danube. You connect into the Rhine and then the Moselle. Or you could come from Amsterdam and go down there.
So really, it's whatever type of package you want to put together, and you can get together with your travel advisor and choose the right one.
Well, Avalon has all sorts of offerings to connect the rivers and connect days before or after the cruise.
Yeah. So on this itinerary, what was your favorite part?
My favorite part, I really did like the battlefields of Verdun.
Right.
And I like seeing Bernkastel. It's a beautiful town that is kind of on the end of a bend in the river.
Okay.
And it's just such unique. All the towns in Europe are unique and have so much history, and every one of them is different. But the thing about this city was it had those vineyards that were straight up and down almost,
Yeah.
and they grow them in a vertical fashion, which
Right.
we can't figure out how they even managed to catch the water. And I don't know. But it's gorgeous.
So, what about the excursions were included with your package?
So they have an excursion every day that's
Mhm.
included. There's a younger crowd, a more active crowd, because they offer the walking tours of the town or something more active, bicycling, canoeing,
Wow.
and hiking. So there's so many choices now. And the discovery part, where there's something different, like a insider's tour of Vienna, which we did
Right.
one time.
So really, basically every single day you have a menu of excursions that you can go from, and they range from active down to probably easy walkers.
Exactly, that's exactly right.
Now, you mentioned that you're starting to see a younger crowd on Avalon, probably due to their active discovery program. Who would you feel that this particular itinerary is suited for? Who should book this?
Well, first of all, anybody that's interested in history would like to see that Verdun.
Right.
I'm guaranteeing you it's fascinating. And so 50, 60, 70-year olds,
Right.
men and women.
So pretty much all ages then.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So what about the best time of year to go?
I really liked that June time because the vineyards were so green. Everything was green and beautiful. And generally, that's my favorite time to visit Europe is in June or late May.
Right.
May, June. But we've also gone in September, and like everywhere, it's just a little different.
Right. Probably less of a chance to run into an issue with water levels if you're going May, June, right?
Well, that's true, with the exception of they have had the water too high, and so they can't get under the bridges.
Right.
That can be an issue, but we've never run into that.
How does Avalon deal with that when it happens?
Well, Avalon, I've found, works really hard to make sure that they try to keep your experience as close to possible as you expected.
Right.
And so one time the water levels were too low, and Avalon has a higher keel. So they are able to float on the river more because they aren't going to scrape the bottom.
Okay.
But they took us to Munich, which wasn't on the schedule. And we got to see things we weren't planning to see, and spent one night in a hotel there. And then they took us back and put us back on the boat, and we saw everything after that. Whereas during that time, several years ago, many of the cruise lines were busing people from one city to the next,
Right.
rather than trying to keep them on the ship.
Yeah.
So Avalon does a really great job at that.
And no river cruise line wants to have a customer's experience turned into a bus tour.
Exactly.
But really, the mindset really when you think about a river cruise is you have to be prepared for hiccups in the itinerary due to water level being either too high or too low and that sort of thing. So it just comes with the territory if you're going to book this, right?
Right. You have to understand that could happen. However,
Yeah.
the percentage of that happening is very small.
No, exactly. You always hear the horror stories out there when it does happen,
Yes.
but that's only a small proportion of it
Yeah,
of the
that's
whole
right.
thing.
And all the river cruises we've been on, that was one time. It was interrupted.
Well, there you go. Well, there you go.
So-
Tell me about Budapest and Prague.
Well, we had never been to Prague. We had been to Budapest,
Right.
but it's another unique city. It's a city of lights, and the bridges are lit up at night, and the buildings on the side of the river. So it's a really pretty thing to see at night after the sunset. So we took a special little cruise in order to see all those lights, to make sure we saw them thing. And then the next night, the ship left at dark, so we got to see it again.
Oh, grand. Oh, grand. So do you arrive into Prague first, right?
No, we went into Budapest.
Oh, okay, Budapest.
Right, and went up the Danube to Vienna.
Okay. Now, would you suggest doing a pre-cruise stay in Budapest when you're planning this?
Well, I think it would be nice. We did have some of our group do that. There's always something to see in Budapest.
Right.
However, Avalon, the trip that we booked, Avalon had included one night in a hotel. So you could see plenty of Budapest. You didn't really need to go in a day early. If you're getting on when the ship's leaving, why, yes, I think that would be important.
Was this particular itinerary what they call an active discovery cruise?
It was.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And so everybody was busy doing something. In fact, Dave and I did our first river cruise canoe trip. And and there were lots of people on there younger than on that little trip
Right.
than we are. And so we had fun. A lot of people did bicycling, and a lot of people loved the hiking.
A lot of great experiences. Now,
Absolutely.
active discovery cruising applies to all of the itineraries Avalon does, or is it just particular one?
They're just particular ones.
Oh, are they?
that
Okay.
They have that set up. Yeah, because I could see they have to set up a lot of different tours along the way,
Right.
and vendors
Yeah.
in order to accommodate, maybe there'll be 10 people on a bike tour or 3. So it takes a little bit more coordination on their part, other than setting up 3 different walking tours,
Okay.
doing the same thing. So, and those discovery trips where we made some pastries and one of the discovery things. So, it's a little more in-depth kind of, which we have loved.
I'm assuming that from what we talked about earlier, that this cruise itself again was 7 days, but you had some pre-cruise stays in Budapest, right?
One night
Mhm.
and then 2 nights in Prague.
Okay, so that made for a 10-day turnaround.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another 10-day trip.
Which countries did you visit along the way with Budapest to
Well,
Prague?
we visited Hungary,
Right?
Vienna, and Czech Republic, and Germany.
Was there a highlight in each country?
I can never think of anything that we don't enjoy. That's why we go back time and again.
Just because of the history. Yeah.
Yeah, we get there's something new, like a Trappist monastery we visited, and Clam Castle, where Count Clam had run that castle for 50 or 500 years. It'd been under the ownership all those years. So I don't know. It's just these little findings that you just can't find in going to an all-inclusive resort somewhere.
And it's a great memory. Like you've made like all of these little highlights and these hidden little gems along the way in the river. It's a fantastic memories.
Right.
Tell me a little bit more about Prague. Prague, as you know, is not on the Danube. So how did you get from the ship, wherever it docked, to Prague? And what was included with that? And give us the details on that.
Okay, so Avalon has this all set up, which is the beauty of doing these trips on a river cruise.
Right.
Is you don't have to figure it out. You don't have to rent a car. You don't have to find somebody to take you anywhere. So they picked us up at the boat in the morning, and it was a couple-hour drive to Český Krumlov,
Okay.
which is a unique little wonderland town. It's like a fairy tale town, and they gave us a tour, and we had lunch there. We bought lunch on our own. And then we get back on the bus, and it's another 3.5 hour drive to Prague. And so then they take us to the hotel, unload our luggage, and you get to go to your room. And so that's all taken care of by Avalon.
Right.
You don't have to think about it again.
Right. Once you're in Prague, how long was your stay in Prague? Two full days?
Yes. And then we left that next morning.
Right. And were there tours as part of that as well?
Yes.
Just like
there's always tours included.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the tours you can pay extra for.
Right.
I don't want people to think that there are several offers, and they're really nice tours. So often we do that, but and even in the cities like Prague, there was a traditional dinner, Český dinner, and it was really fascinating and wonderful show, but that was extra.
Right.
You had to pay for that, but it was well worth it. We were happy we did everything we did.
So to kind of put a cap on that, with Avalon, you're going to have a menu of excursions along the way at every port that are included, but there's also optional ones which can just only do nothing but add to your experience. And they're probably not a lot of extra cost anyway, are they, Judy? Or
well, some of them are pricey, over $100. Usually it's around that $100 and under mark
per person.
But I think that dinner and show was 100 and some.
Yeah, but worth it, you felt.
Oh, yeah. And another hint is book those early, because they have a limited number they'll take on those tours.
Right.
So you can book your tours before you even leave the U.S.
So when you're working with your clients, then once you get everything in place, then you make sure you make sure that they have a chance to look to see what's available and get booked early.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yes.
So tell me about the ships, Judy. Were they, first of all, between the two cruises, were we looking at the exact same type of ship, or how did you find the ship?
Well, they're wonderful,
Mhm.
and they're almost exactly the same, with the exceptions of the decor, and but the layout of the ship, everything is exactly the same, which we find very comforting.
Mhm.
There's a Avalon on the third level, which is the one we like to stay on, panorama level,
Right.
has a lounge in the back of the ship, a little lounge where you can get coffee and tea, water, and sit there and watch the world go by if you want. And we try to get a room back toward that lounge because I like to get coffee in the morning
Right.
and take it back to a room if it's a good morning to be in the room and look out the window,
Right.
the full glass window.
Now, exactly. Now, I've heard from several people that Avalon probably has the most innovative staterooms when it comes to these panorama staterooms. Tell me a little bit more about that. What sets them aside from some of the other river cruise lines?
Well, most of it is that window
Right.
that you can sit in your bed and look directly out through those windows to the river and what you're floating by.
Yeah.
Now, there's one little caveat there because sometimes there's a boat pulled up beside you. So you want to make sure your curtains are closed so you don't wake up and have somebody else looking directly into your window. We don't find that happening very often.
Right.
But still, it's worth it to be able to sit there and look out.
Yeah, and they're floor to ceiling, right?
Floor to ceiling, wall to wall.
Yeah, so it's like the whole side of your room is the river.
Exactly.
Yeah. So after doing all of these cruises, Judy, do you have any new advice for clients looking to book one of these itineraries or on an Avalon cruise?
Well, you know what I've seen recently are families, like older families, families that have, the parents are 70 and the kids are 50, and they may even have some children that are in their 20s or 30s. Now that these are more active type cruises, I think that it appeals to that.
Right. So then it kind of becomes multi-generational.
Exactly.
Right. So does Avalon, no, when we talk about children like 12 and under, they don't allow 12 and under? Yeah.
Most of the cruise lines, it's 12 and under.
Right.
They don't allow them. I think I've seen some that they do, but they're under 8. So small children are not welcome on those trips.
Right. And in reality, on this type of a cruise and itinerary, there's not a lot of things to keep kids of that age engaged anyway.
Right.
Like,
and besides that, they're not going to remember it.
we'd all like to think that our kids are going to be history majors, but at that at that age, there's other things on their mind in a lot of cases. So
That's right.
yeah. How did you
And
find the Wi-Fi?
oh, it was great.
Yeah.
Now they have a new thing. This is the first time we experienced that. But your audio box that you carry with you for tours
Right.
can also operate as a hotspot. So you can get a Wi-Fi through that hotspot.
Oh, really?
Yes, it took us half the cruise to figure that out, but nonetheless, I figured it out for my future clients to tell them that that audio box. It's a wonderful thing. You stuff it in your bag, and then if you want to use your phone to look something up or whatever, you didn't have to use your cell service. You could use that hotspot.
Well, isn't that interesting? So for folks that are watching that don't know what an audio box is, that's a little set of headphones and microphone that you put on your ear when you're going through on a trip, so that you can listen to what your guide has to say when you're in these particular places.
That's exactly right.
And now it becomes a hotspot. That's really cool. So you would be issued with this at the start of the cruise, and it just stays with you till the end, right?
That's correct. One other thing I want to mention is Avalon now offers a happy hour. They always had a happy hour, but you had to buy wine or beer or whatever. Now they offer this happy hour with basic wine, beer, and lower shelf kind of cocktails. Well, not always lower shelf. We could get April spritzers. And that's a major addition to people don't want to drink all day, but they like that happy hour time.
Right.
To come and settle in before dinner and listen to the cruise talk
Right.
by the cruise director.
So over and above that, they probably include wine and beer with lunch and dinner.
That's correct. They
Right.
do.
Plus this new happy hour where people can come and because that's all you need.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Judy, this is wonderful. It's not hard to tell that you and Dave are fans.
Yeah. True.
If folks want to find out more information about booking an Avalon water cruise or any other river cruise with you, how would they do that?
Well, they can reach out to me by phone. You can call my cell phone even.
Right.
720-480-8583. And my business line and my email, jnickerson@cruiseholidays.com.
Perfect. I'll leave those links in the description.
Okay.
Now, I always have to ask, because I know as part of what you do, you have to travel to keep the learning curve up. So where are you and Dave off to next?
Well, in the end of August, we're flying into Nice, sailing out of Arles on the Rhone to Lyon, close to Lyon. And so that's our next 10-day trip, a couple of nights in Nice, a 7-day cruise.
Oh, perfect. And do I have to ask, is it Avalon?
Yeah, you do. Yes, of course it's Avalon. Oh, dear. We can't let time pass you by because, we're all getting older and who knows what's going to happen next year.
But travel keeps you young.
That's exactly right.
Well, the Rhone, we've never done a review of a river cruise in the Rhone, so we'll have to have you back to regale us with all your adventures on the Rhone. How's that sound?
That sounds wonderful. We'd be glad to.
Perfect. Well, with that, Judy, I'm just going to wish you and Dave safe and happy travels on all your futures adventures and river cruises. May the wind always be at your back, and I hope to see the two of you on a Lido deck sometime soon.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Take care.
You too.
Bye. And that about wraps it up for today, folks. A very special thanks to my guest, Judy Nickerson of Cruise Holidays of Monument and Judy's Luxury Travel. If you'd like to reach Judy, I will leave her contact information in the description. If you would like to reach us with a suggestion for a future interview or a comment, you can simply send a question to questions@realtravelexperts.com, visit our website, realtravelexperts.com, or simply leave a comment. We always respond. And as always, folks, if you enjoy this content, a like, subscribe, and a ring of the bell is certainly appreciated and helps us to spread the word. So until next time, happy travels.